Introduction to Creating Kamen Riders in the World of Comics. Jing, who has traveled to the world of comics, received a mission from the creator god to enhance this world of comics. In the end, Jing, who had no choice but to face unhappiness, became the screenwriter of the video projection and the behind-the-scenes boss responsible for finding faults in reality. Maybe it was a clown, but what about him? Chapter 1. Chaotic Space. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Where is this? Jing looked around at the pitch-black darkness that was nowhere to be seen, as well as the sense of suspension in the air that no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't land. Jing gave himself 3 big mouths. It's impossible, I must be dreaming. How could I be in such a dark space? Yes, I must be dreaming. Jing's mental state clearly had some problems, as if a certain gate had been opened. Jing was frantically self-destructive, hoping to wake up. Stop hitting me, it hurts me so much. Finally, when Jing felt his spirit was about to collapse, a voice rang out from his mind. Jing's originally self-destructive action suddenly stopped, and the next second a white light rushed out of Jing's mind. When the white light dissipated, there appeared a nearly identical 2-headed real-size Q-type white hair landscape. Hey, why do you look exactly like me? Jing pointed to the Q version of Jing floating in the empty space with angel wings. My name is not Hello, I have my own name, my name is Shi. How about that? Is the name I just chose very cool? I'll tell you, I'm the legendary one, said Shi, holding her chest in both hands and looking proud as she was about to further introduce herself. But Jing, who had been mentally unstable since arriving in this space, grabbed him and shook him wildly. I don't care who you are, quickly get me out of this damn place. After hearing Jing's heart-wrenching screams, Shi, who had been shaken with all kinds of meat and vegetables, also became much clearer. The waving little wings broke free from Jing's claws and fiercely opened a row of his own small brain. Damn it, I forgot to open that thing. As soon as the words fell, Shi hurriedly used his small Q-shaped hand to click a few times in the void. Originally, Jing, who seemed to be a wild beast choosing people, seemed to have suddenly received a sedative. After calming down, his eyes fell into a dull state like dead fish eyes. Shi quickly flew up to Jing and waved his small hand, pulling him back from his stagnant state. Jing touched his cheeks, applauding on both sides, and looked at the miserable look on his arms, covered in scars. In an instant, a heart-wrenching roar sounded in this void, painful, so painful that those who hear it are sad, and those who see it cry. After a while, Jing rubbed his chin and nodded uncontrollably, looking at Shi in front of him. That means you are the legendary system, and I am the legendary lucky traveler. But the two of us are said to have encountered the turbulence of time and space as soon as we opened the door. As you were born, you didn't have much power. And my soul is still very fragile and cannot be possessed. I can't help you anything, and then we were blown by the storm of the void, this chaotic space between the legendary reality and fantasy. Shi lifted his proud chest and said, that's right, this space has the ability to erode spirit, and I saved you. Subsequently, Jing, who looked foolish, punched Shi on the forehead. Oh, it hurts. Jing didn't even pay attention to the painful wailing of Shi. So, what are you really proud of? Quickly tell me if there is any way to get out. Hey! Shi covered the big bag on his head and his original pride had disappeared. What can I do? To protect you, all my energy has been used up. No matter what, we can't get out. Jing's eyebrows twitched wildly, his face speechless as he sat together, it was all his fault. Just as the two were still arguing, a black light rushed out of Jing's head again, accompanied by the sound of complaint. Hey, are you guys finished? Don't let me sleep at night. Lu Jing and Lu hoped for the figure that gradually dissipated the black light, which looked almost the same as Lu Jing, but different from Lu Shi, who was completely white. But instead, the Q. version of Lu Jing, female, with demon wings on her black back suddenly emitted an incredibly dazzling golden light in her eyes. Hurry up to the little devil with a charming face and say, Big brother, we're waiting for you. Hurry up and send us out X2. Lu Crocodile looked at the two people approaching him with a silly gaze, and his tone was full of helplessness. If I had the ability to go out, I would have gone out long ago. Why are you still staying here? Lu Jing and Lu Shi were like deflated balls, and they found their desired place to lie down. One person, 2 in 1 fell into a wonderful silence. It's okay, I'm a human body, and soon I'll starve to death. Only you two are lonely. Lu Jing placed his hands on his chest and closed his eyes, as if accepting his fate. At least death is better than loneliness, right? But just as Lu Jing had quietly closed his eyes and was preparing to welcome the arrival of death, the leisurely voice of Lu Crocodile came into his ears. As we are a newly born system, the contract we signed with you is a symbiotic contract. You can live as long as we can without feeling hungry at all. Lu Jing. Sitting up with question marks all over his head, he nodded incessantly beside him as if it were Lu Shi, who was speaking the same way as a crocodile. His eyes dimmed again. Is even death a luxury? Can I commit suicide? Lu Jing still didn't give up the idea of dying. After all, it can be considered a person who has died once, right? Although some people should say why they keep thinking about death day by day. But Lu Jing's brain circuit is different from others, and he is even more decisive. Since he is destined to be trapped in this space, he is destined to die. It's better to give yourself a good time first, then close your eyes and don't care about anything. Dreams are beautiful, reality is bone deep. It's unlikely that we signed a symbiotic contract with you to commit suicide, and will feel a lot of pain, Lu Shi explained to Lu Jing like a little angel. Lu Jing. Speaking of which, do you have any entertainment to bring over and everyone is having fun? Very good, since he can't die, Lu Jing wants to start. It's better to play a game first. Although Lu Shi and Lu Crocodile are newly born systems, they are still equipped with many entertainment missed features such as real simulation and virtual AI. Afterwards, both of them fell into the beauty of the virtual reality world. In ancient times, Lu Jing rode on a dinosaur, wielding a spear and wearing nothing on his body, crazily cycling. I am invincible in the world, and I will conquer the world with 2 followers behind me. In ancient times, Lu Jing held a high position on the throne, surrounded by countless beauties who served fragrant grapes and wine. Beside him were his 2 great generals, one on the left and one on the right. Under the throne, there were a group of people who cursed themselves. With a wave of his hand, Lu Jing said, I, who killed his cat, am the ruler of a country. How can a petty person be reckless in front of me? Modern Lu Jing is also embracing each other, with 2 loyal subordinates still by his side behind him. Mr. Lu, please give me a way out. The middle-aged man in a suit and leather shoes knelt in front of Lu Jing, praying like a dog. Wow, the middle-aged man in a suit stood up excitedly when he heard Lu Jing's voice, which sounded like a heavenly melody. He was about to knock again. But the following sentence plunged it deeply into the abyss. Isn't it too much to dig your 2 waists? Lu Jing's tone was full of mockery. In the end, the man in the suit was dragged down by 2 loyal guards while cursing loudly, and it goes without saying that his waist was completely depleted. 10,000 years have passed, and Lu Jing enjoys playing in various worlds that he used to dare not imagine, such as time travel, rebirth, fantasy, zombies, and the end. Following him, Lu Crocodile and Lu Shi, as if letting go, transformed into 2 angelic figures, one black and one white, sitting on the shoulders of both sides of Lu Jing. Sometimes I end up playing 2 games on my own, and sometimes I sit on Lu Jing's shoulder watching his naughty moves. 100,000 years have passed, and one person, 2 in 1, is now spread out in the pitch-black space. The imaginable game scenes have been played by the three of them tens of thousands of times, not only on various branch routes, but also on various adventure routes. There's really nothing to play with, . For 200,000 years, Lu Jing's face was covered in stubble and his eyes were devoid of any emotion, just staring blankly at the pitch-black sky. Speaking of which, does the dark space have a sky? Lu Shi and Lu Crocodile have started discussing whether the evil system of Lu Crocodile is strong or the hope system of Lu Shi is strong in order to pass the boring time. The two generals were arguing aimlessly, with Lu Jing next to them, who had a clear view of life. 300,000 years have passed, and Lu Crocodile, Lu Shi, and Lu Jing lie neatly together. Lu Shi, how long can we still live, Lu Crocodile? Lu Jing's tone with his two dead fish eyes mixed with too much helplessness. Let's live another 100,000 years, about X2. Yu reading www.yuyukangshu.net. Tears of bitterness flowed from the corner of Lu Jing's eyes, and he lifted his arm helplessly, shaking it. My biggest wish in my life is to open a small gap in the pitch-black space. Even a thumb-sized Doraemon will die without regret. Lying on both sides of Lu Jing, Lu Shi and Lu Crocodile also shed sorrowful tears. Without any other description, it was just too vivid. Just as Lu Jing had finished speaking and was about to close his eyes again. The sudden situation made one and two people stare in front with their eyes wide open, as if seeing a rare treasure. Because there is a time and space crack that is one person tall ahead, charge over X3. Lu Jing and his team naturally won't miss this opportunity. Lu Crocodile and Lu Shi turned into one black and one white, and two streams of light penetrated into Lu Jing's body. The black and white wings spread out from behind the land scenery and turned into a stream of light, rushing towards the cracks in time and space. At the moment when the cracks in time and space were about to heal, black and white flowing light rushed out through the cracks and arrived in a brand new world. Without stopping at all, passing through the Milky Way, passing through various satellites, we arrived straight at that blue planet. Lu Jing landed in a park, and it was late at night due to the lack of people that he did not notice the sudden addition of Lu Jing, such a person. Lu Crocodile and Lu Shi also eagerly flew out of the path's body, as if they had made some kind of prayer gesture. Kneeling together and kissing the familiar ground, who knew that this farewell would last for 300,000 years, let's say hello to Mother Earth first. As for Lu Shi, why did the two of them kiss the ground together? After all, they have been trapped in a dark space with nothing for 300,000 years, and their emotions are a bit extreme, which is normal. Chapter 2. Playing videos. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the morning, the crowd that should have been busy was unusually quiet. They looked at their watches or phones with bewildered and abnormal expressions. Just now, a huge screen unfolded above the sky, and at the same time, any device related to electronic devices also popped up a small screen. Is this world necessarily real? Let's take a look at the truth hidden behind the scenes together. Snowfall frowned as she watched the playback screen on her watch. A certain pink-haired bun was also scared and tightly hugged under the snow, refusing to let go of anything. On the side of Qigu Hachiman, he breathed a sigh of relief only after Kamachi urgently called to confirm that both sides were fine. At this point, the video also began to play, so start the experiment. The law of victory has been determined. Kamen Rider Creation Ride. As the image of a beautiful woman flashed by, a red and blue knight appeared on the screen. Immediately after, the screen fell into pitch black, and when it lit up again, the figures on the screen had already changed. A mysterious white mask wearing a fiery red cloak stood straight in the center of the screen. Silence is like being stared at by others, after a long time. Under the white mask, a mechanical sound of mixed gender came out, I will definitely stop you, do everything I can to stop you. The knight in the video under the snow seems to be you. Qigu Hachiman rubbed his eyes and found that it was indeed so. Qigu suddenly fell into an extremely absurd feeling. It turned out that his own minister. Surprisingly, a superhero in the video who can transform into a cool Kamen Rider. The pink hair ball was wrapped in Bibbin's clothes, and a bright light burst from his eyes, as if he had grabbed his own life-saving straw. Like a sloth, he tightly hugged the snow and said, "Great. Xiao Xue is a superhero, so there's no need to be afraid at this moment." What is the meaning of snowfall? Snowfall, now his brain is also a bit confused, and there seems to be a scene of him flashing through the video. Am I really a hero? Snowy Snow looked at her delicate arms, seeming somewhat hesitant. Everyone in the other classroom was discussing, but I had someone sitting quietly watching the light curtain. Ling Xiaolu Qinglong looked at her electronic watch expressionlessly. Ling Xiaolu didn't care about the fact that the goddess on campus was actually a superhero. But rather recalling the words of that mysterious person. Who is he and what he means by what he says? Just as Ayanami Kojiro was thinking, the electronic screen also gave a new picture. The video flickered again, and the scene changed again. This time, the camera overlooks the entire Earth. At the same time, Chen's thick and slow voice accompanied the white rocket as it flew by, beginning to explain. 10 years ago, the first space rocket in the history of Shenzhou continent arrived on Mars in daylight. On the surface of Mars, we have discovered relics and debris left by another civilization. In its abandoned palace, our astronauts have found the Pandora's box, which is suspected to be an important technological product left over from the Martian civilization. At the same time, it was also the beginning of a nightmare, as the Martian astronauts successfully returned to Earth on that day. On the spacious square, there is a sea of people and important figures gather here. The Pandora's box is located in the center and is guarded by 4 special forces armed to the teeth. At the celebration ceremony, the terrifying power of Pandora's magic box was unleashed, and a red light scattered throughout the room. The pitch-black walls rose from the ground, and countless people were lifted up to a height of tens of thousands of meters. The pitch-black wall engraved with mysterious runes is high enough to be level with the sky, hence we named it the Wall of the Sky. The sky wall divided the country into 3 regions, and the regions fell into chaos. Soon, someone rose to power one after another. 3 prime ministers emerged one after another, and they also had their own new names. Dongdu, Shidu, and Nandu. Just like the era of the 3 kingdoms in history, the 3 countries are hostile to each other. On the surface, there is peace, but in reality, there is a surge of undercurrents, both wanting to devour each other and achieve unity. Pandora's box brought from Mars. And why was that box suddenly activated? Ling Xiaolu Qinglong frowned, and there must be hidden details inside that cannot be explained clearly in just 2 or 3 sentences. Alice Phil looked at the screen in disbelief and then at her husband. Does that voice from Chiasi really sound like yours? Wei Gongqieshi's hand trembled slightly as he was reading the newspaper. In fact, he could hear it without his own wife's words. As a spy investigating intelligence, Wei Gongqieshi is already thinking about using his connections to prevent him from entering. Alice Phil also worried and hugged her husband. Watching his gentle wife, Wei Gongqiesi couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief and reduce some panic. Fortunately, electronic devices are playing videos now. No one has called him yet, but someone should be coming soon. Accompanied by the sound of Bai Xing beside him, Wei Gongqiesher, dressed in the uniform of the Eastern Metropolitan Government and handsome in appearance, fell. Miss Journalist Alice Phil, who was attentively explaining the origin of the sky wall for the interview. So we are constantly studying Pandora's box in order to unravel his secrets as soon as possible. After saying the last sentence, Wei Gongqieshi did not accept any further interviews and walked towards his own car. His subordinates opened the car door for him, and Wei Gongqie sat in, crossing his legs and holding his chest with both hands. Paired with its handsome appearance, it can be said that its aura is full. The car arrived at the Ice Room Fantasy Research Institute, and not only was the Prime Minister of the Eastern Metropolis, but also Keiji. At the same time, he also served as the director of the Ice Room Fantasy Science Research Institute, specializing in the project of Pandora's Box. Wei Gongqie looked at the Pandora's magic box, which was protected in the middle by a new type of glass with strength comparable to diamonds. But I found a woman wearing a brown long windbreaker excitedly rushing towards the glass. The girl pressed her face against the glass, her face full of excitement, and her thirst for knowledge was almost written on her face. This is the legendary Pandora's box. It looks so powerful, it would be even better if we could study it. The girl's originally empty head suddenly had a dull hair erect, swaying wildly. Afterwards, like an excited child, he asked a series of questions about Pandora's box to the staff and guards beside him. Wei Gongqie glanced at the young girl twice, and the guard beside him quickly handed over the information of the girl. Is it snow under the snow? He is really a lively and active child. How did he get in? That person is a newcomer who came to the Video Research Institute today. You already said hello to me before, Director. Faced with the inquiry from Omiya Kishi, Kenneth, Weber, and Vilvet, who had been standing silently beside Omiya Kishi and wearing glasses, replied. I see. I've been busy with a lot lately, and I forgot. Wei Gongqie tidied up his tie and was about to leave. The journalist named Alice Phil, a silver-haired beauty, hurriedly ran over to the side of Wei Gongqie. I took out a white photo from my handbag and asked, do you know this blue and red hero? And recently, there have been consecutive monster attacks in the city. We are also investigating the monster's attack on the citizens, and the known clue is that it was done by a mysterious organization, said Wei Gongqie, taking the picture handed over by Alice Phil. The monster is an unknown life form known as the Striker, and we have been investigating its condition ever since. The one who saved the citizens is said to be a mysterious hero known as the Kamen Rider. Wei Gongqie rubbed the picture in his hand and did not directly answer the journalist's question. Instead, he lightly patted Alice Phil with his hand and looked at him in a somewhat frivolous tone. This is really an interesting topic. Why don't you come to my office and have a long conversation all night about this mysterious hero? Alice Phil looked at the hand resting on her shoulder and realized something was wrong. I quickly took a few steps back and said, no need, Prime Minister. Although Alice Phil hesitated a bit, she still refused the request of Wei Gongqie and left Ice Room Fantasy after finishing the interview. Alice Phil, who was sitting in a special national spy vehicle, didn't just think that way, covering her hot cheeks. Looking shyly at Wei Gongqie, he said, I hate Qixi. I haven't known him for long in the video. Since I just want to do that to others, Yu Konshu. Net is really full of pornography. Wei Gongqie tried his best to press his face against the window, not daring to look at his wife's shy and mischievous expression. This wave has caused a lot of shame and embarrassment. As a spy, Wei Gongqie never thought he would be so famous, in a sense. I just hope my son won't see this section. Of course, that's impossible. This is a high school college that specializes in training spies. Wei Gongqie was whispering to his friends when Jian Tongshan, with a mischievous smile on his face, bumped into Wei Gongqie with his arm. I didn't expect your father, who is usually so serious to you, to have such a side. And their instructor Weber didn't expect to be the secretary of Sherlong's father. The two young girls next to her also blushed and nodded in agreement, never expecting that Uncle Qixi, who usually looked very serious, would have such a side. Wei Gongqie awkwardly scratched his head, and the four of them discussed like this in another car that was traveling with the Oda clan. Yoshimoto held the snowy snow in an incredible embrace. Xiaoxue, you are really lively in the video. I really hope that Xiaoxue can do the same now. That would be great. It's not good, I don't want to become like that. Snow is like this, said Snow. But his eyes couldn't help but look at his lively and active self. Didn't he really want to? The answer should be negative. As for why there was a fan-haired bun on the car, of course it was under the plea of the fan-haired bun. Snowy Snow reluctantly agreed, not because one felt afraid when they arrived there. Chapter 3. Bad than Qigu, I became the focus. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After finishing the interview, Alice Phil went to a cafe and organized all the content of today's interview. And with a satisfying meal, it was already late at night when Alice Phil came out of the coffee shop. On his way back, he saw scenes of unknown life forms being attacked by attackers and others. Alice Phil opened her mouth, big and small, and just as she was about to shout, she instinctively covered her mouth, only making a stuttering sound. But even such a small sound happened to be transmitted. The thumping sound that was attacking the passers-by's ears caused a pause in the originally attacking movement, and instinctively twisted his body, looking towards the source of the sound. The passerby who was being attacked also took advantage of this opportunity to escape. But Alice Phil was miserable, realizing that the situation was not right. Alice Phil started running, but as an ordinary person, how could Alice Phil possibly run faster than the batter? And he was also wearing high heels, and soon the batter caught up with Alice Phil. The batter slapped Alice Phil, who had turned back in fear, and knocked her to the ground just as she was about to deliver a fatal blow. A weapon resembling a drill bit, but in the shape of a sword, lay horizontally on the attacker's chest. The batter was momentarily stunned before being flown out by the chuanchi slash of a handheld turbo shredder. The batter, rolling twice on the ground, let out an angry roar, stood up, and charged towards the red and blue knight who met. Chuanchi removed the red rabbit from his belt and filled it with a bottle, inserting it into the turbo crusher. Rabbit. Pull the trigger, rabbit. The turbo ends, the drill bit wrapped in red light spun wildly. It pierced straight into the attacker's chest, and with just one strike, it completely defeated the attacker. Afterwards, Chuanchi took out a blank full bottle and turned the white twist cap to align the bottle mouth straight with the batter. Blue-purple smoke emerged from the attacker's body and entered the bottle. The batter lying on the ground turned into a human. This scene made those who watched the screen instantly show disdainful and thought-provoking expressions, wondering what kind of monster it was that turned out to be a human. Along with it came a discussion among the crowd, whether it was a human experiment conducted by that mysterious organization, otherwise there would have been no such monster. That's right, that mysterious organization doesn't seem like a good thing at first glance. Since conducting experiments on ordinary people is too unethical. Although there is unanimous opposition and resistance, there are always exceptions among the crowd. Sigong Yenin watched the scene in the video where he transformed from a monster back into an adult, without feeling any fear. On the contrary, it was a bright light in front of me. If I had mastered this technology, wouldn't I be able to casually build a group of biological weapons? At that time, my fourth palace Yenin will be the emperor of this world, ha ha ha. The idea of doing this old and immortal immediately led someone to set up a laboratory, and the answer to whether it could succeed is obvious. Wei Gongqieshi clenched his fist and sat next to Alice Phil's jade hand, to be honest, when he saw his wife about to be attacked again. Wei Gongqieshi wished he could rush in immediately, but fortunately, the masked knight saved his wife. Humph, this kind of human body experiment against the heavenly gang is completely trampling on the laws of the country and also trampling on the bottom line of humanity. Don't be caught by my palace attendant, otherwise I will show him the most brutal punishment. Alice Phil's beautiful ruby-like eyes on the side were twinkling with twinkling stars. Looking at my handsome husband, he silently leaned his head on the shoulder of Wei Gongqieshi. Husband, I believe you will definitely punish evil. His wife, Wei Gongqieshi, blush, also leaned her head in silence. The warm scene was that she stuffed a handful of dog food for the driver. It's not just a matter of one, but if Wei Gongqieshi sees the video and finds out that he is conducting human experiments, what should he do? That's another matter. After defeating the assassin and inhaling the nebular gas inside his body into the energy bottle. Under the snow, Shui returned to his base, Zigfai Cafe. Welcome back, Shui Jixia. Shui pushed the door and entered the cafe, where Zigfai Kislana was cleaning her cups. With a father-like loving smile on his face, he welcomed the returning hero. Snowy Snow listened to the familiar voice, and a smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. Ah, I'm back. Although Snowfall is a mysterious hero who defeats the assassins and saves the citizens. But behind his back, he was just a poor person who had lost his memory, didn't know where he came from, and didn't know where he went from. On a rainy night, his whole body was soaked, and his eyes were empty. Snowy Snow, the manager of the Zigfai store, who was wearing an umbrella, and his face was full of heartache and error. Just like rescuing a poor stray animal, he picked it up, and then Snowfall used the Siegfried coffee shop as his base. Under the cultivation of Zigfai, he became a Kamen Rider and embarked on a journey to save the citizens by defeating the attackers. Of course, for a hero, two people are not enough, and there is also Zijibai, the daughter of Zijifai's store manager, as an intelligence specialist. At the same time, Bai also possesses a power that he doesn't even know where he comes from, the power to purify the nebula gas of the attacker. And using the semi-finished purification machine obtained by Siegfried, it is completed through the energy extraction device of Snow Under Snow. It can be refined into a full bottle for use by creators. And filling the bottle is also an important transformation and composition prop in the snow. And the most magical thing among them is the best combination, as full bottles with mismatched energy bottle insertion drivers may be subject to some limitations. But the best combination can generate a magical power of 1 + 1 greater than 2, although it is somewhat elusive, where exactly is the magic of the best combination. But let's not say anything else, the most important thing for the current Snowfall is not the best combination, but the simplest and most simple problem. Without money, as the saying goes, a penny is hard to defeat a hero. Regarding the arrears of rent to the manager of the Zigfai store, I have been urged several times by the stingy store manager, and sure enough, heroes also have to live. Fortunately, under the strong recommendation of the manager of the Zigfai store, Shuexia found a job as a researcher. Mainly because I heard from the store manager that he earns a lot of money and also allows Snow to come into contact with Snow. The Pandora's box that I am very interested in. However, during the interview for the Ice Room Fantasy, the interviewees saw that on Snow's resume, it was written that it might have been a physicist. My eyebrows furrowed into a Chinese character, and I looked straight at Shui Jixia Shui. The expression on my face seemed to be saying, "Are you teasing me?" Snow did not pay much attention to this, but instead smiled brightly and directly admitted to his amnesia. "Sorry, because I have lost my memory, I may not be able to remember the past events clearly." The interviewer had a serious face and was about to say something when he was interrupted by an extra palm on his shoulder. "You." The interviewer turned around angrily, but immediately hesitated when he saw the person coming, who was Weber, the supervisor of Ice Room Fantasy. Like a turtle, Weber immediately curled up his head and looked at the resume that the interviewer had sent trembling. I patted the person's shoulder to signal that he could leave, and the interviewer immediately ran away like a mouse. Weber sat in his seat. "It's snowy, isn't it? Snow falls and snow rises and falls." The person in front of them, who looked like a big shot, nodded after hearing the person's question. "I have reviewed my resume, and in fact, our job is not much, it's just analyzing that thing." As Weber spoke, he pushed his glasses and pointed with one hand to the Pandora's box located in the center of the hall. At the same time, in a dark sewer, a man with strong muscles was exposed naked. He was frantically fleeing, with scars of all sizes on his body, and his original face was also bruised and bruised. It looks very disheveled. But it has to be said that the muscles on the man's body have indeed attracted the attention of many male and female audiences. As for why there are boys watching, it can only be said that they understand. The man escaped from the sewer, and the outlet of the sewer turned out to be an abandoned garbage dump. The man looked left and right for a while, then immediately ran to a garbage dump and found one with many holes that were missing. But I wore a decent shirt on my body. But beautiful times are always brief. Quickly, a pair of soldiers wearing elite black special forces uniforms and helmets surrounded the entire garbage dump. The jailbreak has been discovered and immediately arrested. At this moment, Bikigu Hachiman, who was at home, was a bit confused as he watched the video of himself. Isn't it what he did wrong? As for so many people coming to arrest him. And the most shameful thing is still running naked for such a long time, although I'm a bit envious of the tendrils and flesh in the video. The small town beside him also panicked and grabbed Bikigu's foot, fearing that a group of people would come and take his brother away the next second. But if it feels good, that's right, because the country has already sent people over, anyway it's a matter of time. Snowy at the Ice Room Fantasy Research Institute, I happened to see the hanging big screen. The information about the escaped criminal. Bikigu Hachiman, according to a colleague's introduction, this man is called Bikigu Hachiman. Killed the most genius and mysterious researcher in their research institute, the genius scientist codenamed Snow Q. Afterwards, he served his sentence at the central prison in Dongdu. From the footage captured on site, it appears that Bikigu Hachiman is just an ordinary person. But his explosive power easily defeated him, and a group of combat soldiers dressed in excellent combat equipment escaped the scene unscathed. Ding, ding ding ding, under the snow, Shui took out his phone from his pocket. This was the phone call from the manager of the Zigfi store. Shui Naibai's fans received important news that the extremely dangerous jailbreak, Bikigu Hachiman, had escaped from the prison. Bikigu Hachiman was originally a very famous fighter, but he refused to participate for some reason. Later, a year ago, he was arrested on suspicion of killing a scientist and sentenced to 10 years of death. Because the sin he committed was too great, he killed the mysterious scientist who could have solved the mystery of Pandora's box, Snow Q. After this matter, I will tell you that the most crucial thing is that Yu reading www.yuukangshu.net detected the reaction of the attacker on this person, Bikigu Hachiman. In other words, he could become a thug at any time to attack innocent citizens. After hearing the call from the manager of the Qigu Cup store, Shui Jixia Shui immediately packed up his things and found them as quickly as possible based on GPS positioning. Bikigu Hachiman is on the run. Shui Xia Shui took off his helmet and jumped off the motorcycle, looking at Bikigu with a wary expression in front of him. You must be Bikigu Hachiman, I am the person who specifically takes you back. After hearing Snow's words, Bikigu Hachiman's eyes suddenly became fierce. Rushing up, he engaged in a close combat with Shui Xia Shui, whose powerful force truly frightened Shui Xia Shui. After being caught in the opportunity, Biki Valley's Hachiman punched back a few steps, and Snow looked at Biki Valley in surprise. This power was completely abnormal, right? Bikigu Hachiman seized the opportunity and rushed forward, ready to give a final blow. Snowy Snow then took out a full bottle of Red Rabbits and shook it a few times. He achieved an unimaginable speed and disappeared into place in just a short moment, punching into the air. After being caught and shaken by the snowfall, Bikigu Hachiman, who fell to the ground with one kick, was full of surprise on his face. Did you also do something to those guys with gas masks on their faces? Or are you just a group? Shui Jixia, who was about to come forward and handcuff Bikigu Hachiman with silver handcuffs, was taken aback when she heard his words. What are you saying about the gas mask? Bikigu Hachiman stood up and grabbed the collar of Shui Jixia, who had not yet reacted. Don't pretend to be silly, don't you treat me like a white mouse for human experiments, he said. Newcomers seeking attention and recommendations for new books, thank you. Chapter 4. You intentionally did it, right? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Shui Jixia Shui welcomed the anger of Bikigu Hachiman, who seemed to be questioning, with a bewildered expression. Gas masks, human experiments, what exactly is this? No. The snowfall is a sudden surge of familiar and unfamiliar memories in the brain. Trapped in a small container, the masked person seems to be conducting some kind of experiment on themselves. And the bat-armored knight sitting on a gorgeous chair not far away was watching him. But these memory fragments are a bit too fragmented to recall what happened at that time. But under the snow, I feel that my disappointment must have some kind of connection. Subsequently, Shueijixia looked at Bikigu Hachiman, who was shouting at him with a kind expression on his face, and took out a tank full of bottles. After a time of punching and kicking, no, it should be comforting time. According to the honest Bikigu Hachiman, he has also lost his memory, just like snow under snow. I just remember that my previous job seemed to be related to combat, and then I don't know why he also lay in a small container. Some kind of human experiment was conducted by those wearing gas masks. At that time, Bikigu only remembered that his body seemed to have been injected with some kind of liquid. Afterwards, he suddenly became incredibly powerful, breaking free from the constraints of those people wearing white uniforms and gas masks. After beating those people up, they randomly found a sewer and escaped. So, have you seen that Batman? He should have the mark of a bat on his body. Snowfall aims to find crucial clues from the mouth of Hachiman in Bikigu. I don't know, Bikigu Hachiman shrugged helplessly. If I had that armored knight with me as you said, it would have been difficult for me to come out. That's right, Shueijixia nodded somewhat dejectedly. At this moment, an unwelcome guest also approached the door. The fierce assassin, transformed from a human, punched the inexplicably lost snowy snow and flew it away. What the hell is this? Said Higashia Hachiman as he approached his true goal. Painful and painful, it's very dangerous to feed that guy. That thing was transformed from a human into a batter. Completely devoid of human willpower, like a killing machine, only by knocking it down can it stop. Shueijixia rubbed his own head while explaining. Bikigu Hachiman listened to Yukichi Yukino's explanation and watched as the assailants gradually approached him. Although I don't know why, and it's my first time meeting, I didn't feel any fear. By Qigu, this guy, didn't hesitate and just punched him. Of course, the result is predictable, it hurts so much, like hitting a steel plate, as Kikutani Hachiman looked at his fist that was a circle larger. He let out a painful howl, but the batter wouldn't stop because of Bikigu's screams and just knock him to the ground. Next, he used his big feet to crazily trample on the Bikigu Hachiman, if it were an ordinary person who was subjected to such a fierce attack from the assassin. Even if he didn't die on the spot, he must have been completely paralyzed and didn't run away, but it's more than Kikutani Hachiman. After being kicked out by the attacker, he was able to slowly get up, but this time he was smarter than Qigu Shui. What matters is that one enemy is chasing after another, and the advantage of being physically agile allows one to fight back and forth with fierce attackers. What kind of thing is this human experiment? In a dark room, I looked at Bikiya Hachiman in disbelief. Despite being attacked by the assailants so many times, an ordinary person would have died long ago, but this guy only felt the pain. Even without a bone fracture, this is really giving up on this inexperienced otaku. Originally, he also mentioned in the video that his sister Bai he had an extra father, and he was still worried. Not only has strength, speed, and defense all improved. Bai watched the video of Bikigu, who was fighting flexibly. If this thing comes out, it will definitely affect the whole world, right? X2, Kong and Bai almost spoke in unison. Of course, there is not just one family that is troubled, Zigfai Kazurana, who is sitting in the car arranged by the government. Feeling the two almost cannibalistic gazes on my body, I suddenly burst into a cold sweat. And the owners of those two gazes were his wife and daughter, Ziana Kazurana and Cecilia Shaniat. Although the mother and daughter didn't say anything, Zigfai had already figured out how to kneel down and beg for mercy after getting off the car. God save him. But God did not favor him, and Teresa, the aunt of a certain paramecium, also called, causing the atmosphere inside the car to cool down once again. Qigu swallowed his saliva and quickly issued a military order, stating that if he had an affair, he would be cursed with a series of malicious curses such as thunder and lightning. This has brought the previously tense situation back to normal, but Cecilia still refuses to let him go. The slender jade hand reached over and penetrated into Siegfried's clothes, grabbing the tender flesh around his waist and twisting it. Siegfried took a cold breath and said, "It's better to be the same as you said, otherwise." Cecilia put on an expression that you understand. Qigu nodded hastily, as if he was about to receive retribution for being 1 second late, but Chia, the paramecium, who was still holding grudges just now. It can only be said that she is truly the protagonist who loves each other. Watching the video, the one with the same hair color as herself, but the cute and loving little loli couldn't help but fall into a flower obsession. The fragrant and soft little loli, hee, couldn't help but burst out laughing foolishly, if Thunderbolt Yai came. I feel like it might look like his dad, but unfortunately he didn't come. Even though Qigu Hachiman fought with all his might, for the batter, it was still scraping and flying with just one punch. Qigu Hachiman, who had rolled several times on the ground, happened to roll to the foot of Shueji Xiaxue, who was watching a play on the side. The two looked at each other, one with extreme resentment, and the other with a rather embarrassed expression, cough cough. Shui quickly coughed a few times, relieving the embarrassment. He dared to engage in hand-to-hand combat with the batter, which was truly courageous. So, let me take the next step. Shui took a few steps and took out the drive and carried it around her waist. Take out the red rabbit full bottle and the blue tank full bottle, then start the experiment. Shaking the full bottle in his hand, a large amount of physics knowledge emerged from around him, blocking the attacker who was just about to move forward. Surrounded in groups, the assassin looked left and right at these profound theoretical knowledge. It was obvious that he couldn't understand it at all, even though it may have been difficult for humans to understand it. Snowfall refers to twisting the twist cap on a full bottle and inserting it into the drive in a cross pattern. Rabbit, the best match for a tank, with a smile on Snow's face, rotate the lever on the right side of the driver. The drive sent dynamic music, and 2 blank pipes extended from inside the drive, gradually forming a framework. The snow was wrapped around it, and at the same time, the white armor on half of the chuangqi was outlined in front and behind the frame. Then the blue and red liquids filled the front and rear armor respectively. Are you ready? Transform. Shueji set up a combat posture and then spread out his body to shout, accompanied by the sound of words falling. The armor on both sides merged at an extremely fast speed towards the center of the snow, and was assembled onto the body of the snow. White smoke spurts out from the upper and lower interfaces, the steel moon's reversal, rabbits and tanks, yeah. Watching Shueji, who had transformed into a Kamen Rider in front of her, Qigu Hachiman stood up from the ground with an incredible expression on his face. So watching me get beaten up before is definitely revenge, right? Listening to Bikigu's uncertain but very certain words, Snow under Snow is selectively deaf. The Kamen Rider raised his hand and wiped the red rabbit's ear, posing in a classic pose. The law of victory has already been determined. Wow, is this the whole process of transforming into a Kamen Rider? It's too cool, isn't it? Tongu stopped playing games with humans. It seems like we can't fight either. On the other side, Kai Yuang, who had just walked out of the convenience store, was also gazing at the little stars in her eyes. Shui was the transformed Chuangqi. Aang's body couldn't help but imitate the scene of transformation under the snow. After all, every boy has a dream of mecha and armor. Is it pretty good? Snow, who made her debut, nodded in satisfaction as she watched the video and automatically ignored a poor penguin. The pink-haired bun next to her, Yubi Bin Jie, also showed a fan-like expression. Xiaoxue is really amazing. Snowfall took out the drill bit shredder from an unknown fourth-dimensional pocket, and the wildly spinning turbine fiercely struck the batter. Ah! The batter took several steps back and let out an angry roar, swinging his sandbag-sized fist. Snowy Snow did not intend to carry it hard, but bent and dodged casually, avoiding the punches of the attackers. Arriving behind the batter, the turbo crusher in hand slashed heavily, and a large number of sparks appeared from behind the batter. But for the Gear Striker, known for his defensive and attacking abilities, it only made him feel pain. This actually angered the batter even more. He turned around and punched him, but Snow couldn't dodge and quickly blocked the turbo crusher in front of his chest. Under a single mistake, the snow was blasted several meters away by the batter. It looks pretty good, then give it a try. Shui Jixia Shui then pulled out the rabbit bottle and took out the white hedgehog bottle. Insert the drive and rotate the lever. Hedgehog, are you ready? Creating and upgrading cavalry, the sound of snow falling is like the sound of words falling. The white Chuangqi hedgehog armor replaced the red rabbit armor, which happened to be a try. Can you change different combat postures according to different combat environments? Ling Lingxiao looked at the screen. Snow falls, but the source of that bottle's power seems to be the same as the monster, so there must be something inside. Ling Xiaolu Qinglong's speculation is not unique, and many smart people have already thought of it. After all, it has been said from the beginning that UU reading www.uukangshu.net can be made with special bottles that absorb nebular gas, which can be used as full bottles for the Chuangqi system. It is difficult to pay attention to this kind of setting where the enemy and the enemy share the same origin, although the definitions of the creator and the assassin still need to be discussed. The batter strode towards Snow and attacked Snow, while Snow calmly lifted the hedgehog fist. As its name suggests, Snow under Snow's palm is covered with white armor resembling a hedgehog, resembling a fist. White sharp spikes shot fiercely from above, with dozens of white needles piercing fiercely at the batter who was about to punch. Pushing it back a few steps and creating a stiff state, Snowy Snow did not miss this opportunity. The fist, wrapped in a white sharp spike, slammed fiercely, and the batter's face blasted it straight out. It's over. Shui Xia Shui replaced it with a rabbit full screen, and half of the white armor was replaced with a red rabbit armor. The snowfall is caused by shaking the lever, and a large amount of physics knowledge resurfaces by the side of the batter who has just stood up. The two physical trigonometric function frameworks formed by knowledge are tightly clamped and unable to move. The law of victory has been determined. Snow once again touched the red rabbit's ear, jumped up, prepared, go. Turbo termination. Sitting on the curve drawn by physical formulas, like a slide, the snow wrapped in blue and red energy kicked the immobile attacker with one foot. The batter who was hit by the deadly skill of snowfall lay on the ground with a large amount of electric current flashing on his body. Shui Xia Shui turned around and took out a white energy bottle, absorbing the nebula gas of the monster, and the attacker also returned to a human state. Newcomers seeking attention and recommendations for new books, thank you. Chapter 5. Why My Zipper? You are listening at novelfull.audio. After dealing with the attackers, the Special Defense Forces of the Dongdu government also rushed to the scene and arranged them neatly. A car drove from among them to the front of the defense forces, and Wei Gongqieshi opened the car door and jumped out of the car. You are the mysterious hero Kamen Rider, right? Thank you very much for your contributions to the people of our Dongdu government over the years. However, the man named Qigu is a dangerous person. Could you please pass it on to me? Wei Gongqieshi praised him for being polite before the soldiers. Taking advantage of the situation, he also made his own demands, and the defense forces behind him raised their laser guns together, as if Snowy Snow dared to say no and immediately shot him. Qigu Hachiman suddenly covered his head, as if some image flashed through his mind. That's a smoke gun and a person wearing cobra armor. What exactly is that? The memory that suddenly surged up from Qigu, covering his head, also became fierce in expression. I didn't do anything, I had no idea I had killed anyone, why can't you believe me? The incessant roar of anger emanated from Bikigu's mouth, and Wei Gongxie frowned as he looked at Xuezhi Xiaoxue, who had not yet lifted her transformation. The criminal's mental state seems to have gone wrong, please leave it to me. Wei Gongxie raised his hand and made a gesture. A large number of guards rushed forward, seemingly wanting to instantly subdue Bikigu Hachiman. Indeed, today was a terrible day. Despite the snowfall, I watched the surging guards and made a choice. Wave the turbine crushers in your hand and drive them back one after another. Hello Kamen Rider. What are you doing? Wei Gongxie is watching Xuezhi Xiaoxue, who repelled his subordinates. Although I don't know why, my intuition tells me that I must save him from the snow without hesitation. With one hand lifting Bikigu Hachiman and leveraging the strong jumping power of the rabbit, he arrived at his motorcycle and threw Bikigu in the back seat. Hand a motorcycle helmet to Bikigu Hachiman and drive the motorcycle away. At this moment, the escort team no longer hesitated, and the laser guns in their hands shot one after another. As soon as Bikigu turned around, the laser brushed past his cheek, and a thin and numb cold sweat immediately flowed down his forehead. Hey, I'm not wearing armor like you are, what if I get shot into a sieve? Snowy Snow is listening to the grief and anger of a penguin shouting, sorry, I forgot about you not wearing armor. I patted my head, and although I wore a mask and didn't show the expression below, the voice didn't show any apology. Under Snow, Snow took out a full bottle of hedgehogs and inserted them into the motorcycle, revealing a white energy barrier from around. Under the snow, with Bikigu straight out of the military's encirclement, Wei Gongxie calmly got into the car. And the military was also not ambiguous, realizing that the laser gun could not work against the white energy barrier, and directly pulled out the laser rocket launcher. The energy bomb hit the snowy motorcycle driven by snow, understanding the white protective barrier, unable to withstand the fierce attack under the snow. Jumping out of the car, Bikigu, who was full of confusion, drove his motorcycle while leaning against the blue tank on the other side under the snow, with tank tracks on his feet. Just like ice skates, he grabbed the car with one hand and slid on the ground, leveraging the powerful speed and kicking power of the Red Rabbit. Kick all the incoming energy bombs away. Feed 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 feed. Bikigu Hachiman looked at the barrier that was level with the sky and shouted loudly. I really regret saving you a bit. Snowfall resolved the incoming energy bomb and bounced back to its driver's seat, complaining helplessly. Didn't you save me by knowing the truth? Face the sharp roast of Bikigu Bafan. Under the snow, Snow once again chose to be ear-blind. He pulled out the hedgehog and filled the bottle, inserted the rabbit and filled the bottle, and the original white energy barrier disappeared. Instead, they flew at the same speed. When it snowed, they lifted the front of the car with force and sailed straight on the wall of the sky. After a while, I climbed to the top and then plunged straight down like a roller coaster. Why? Why am I riding a roller coaster here? Bikigu Hachiman rushed down from a height of tens of thousands of meters. Startled, he quickly hugged Snow's waist and let out his mournful cries. Sitting still, something even more exciting was about to come. Under the snow, I turned around and looked at the motorcycle cavalry chasing after me. Xuezhi took out the turbo crusher and fiercely plunged it into the wall of the sky, while the other hand grabbed the bewildered Biki Valley. Under the snow, the two of them hung directly on the wall of the sky. Hey, sit still as agreed. Bikigu Hachiman was embraced by Snowfall with one hand. In his hand, he was still holding a motorcycle that had returned to its mobile phone form, while the group of motorcycle riders fell off one by one because they couldn't brake. The explosion was incessant in my ears, I was just saying it. Don't take it seriously. The sound of snow coming from the snowfall was a hoarse sound. Bikigu. Really, now that I'm better, I've also become a fugitive. Under the snow, I'm riding a motorcycle and complaining. And Qigu, who sat in the back seat with a bitter melon-colored face, also asked the question he wanted. Why did you save me? Is that right? Because I believe in you, Snow Under Snow answered with his clear voice. Qigu Hachiman only felt his nose and hair sour, and he was the first person to believe him since he lost his memory. Immediately after the snowfall, the words of Snow directly brought the melancholic penguin back to reality. I believe a fool who doesn't even know the zipper in the library has fallen off won't do things with a plan and budget. What? Qigu quickly looked down and found that his library zipper had indeed opened. When it fell, he quickly pulled it back. It fell just now while you were fighting the monster. Why didn't you tell me? Faced with Bikigu's resentment, Shueijixia, with a black belly, emitted a contemptuous voice. You should be able to feel this kind of thing even if you don't say it, so you are a fool. Puchabai Qigu almost choked on his saliva. Qigu Hachiman and Xiaoding sat together in the car, looking at the unzipped self in the video with a face full of despair. That despicable belly black rabbit, Qigu Hachiman covering his face, he has now become famous, the kind of global. Qigu felt that the black history of running without zippers would definitely haunt him like a nightmare. Meanwhile, the nearby small town comforted her brother and took out a black plastic bag from the small bag she carried with her. Brother, you can wear this when you go out in the future. You won't say it's not zippered when you go out, big brother. Looking at her foolish little sister, Qigu Hachiman instantly felt like she had been stabbed a few more times. But the other person didn't think so. Under the snow, Yan Nai looked at him with a black aura, more like the scene where Qigu Hachiman extended his salty pig hand to hug his sister's slender waist. That damn guy, I must make that guy pay a serious price, for a completely 10-girl control. The actions of Hachiman Qigu in the video were clearly not allowed by him, and now Qigu is not only famous. Moreover, she was also remembered by a senior sister, who, of course, was more powerful, more scheming, and even more insane than Snow. Of course, as the initiator, Shueijixia Shui showed a disdainful sneer without any sense of guilt, and it is truly true that he has a dark belly. But Omiya Katsushi, who had already arrived at the military base, frowned as he kept thinking about the Bat Knight that appeared in Bikigu's memories. Who the hell is that person? You despicable belly black rabbit, ha, I am your lifesaver. You idiot, show me some respect. How could someone like you with a dark belly be respected? Qigu Hachiman and Zhuixia were playing and frolicking, and the motorcycle gradually drifted away. On the distant wall of the sky, Bat Knight stood up and watched as the two of them drifted away, indicating that the plan was about to accelerate. A hoarse voice fell, and white smoke enveloped the Bat Knight, disappearing silently. This just exploded the audience. Damn it, this is not an ordinary encounter, it's a planned one. Genius Detective L, blinking his lifeless eyes, put the potato chips into his mouth. Is everything really planned? Even those ridiculous resumes can be approved. If it were an ordinary person, they would have already thrown out this unknown background under the snow. How could it be possible to apply for it, and even assign it to an important position? It is obvious that the ice room fantasy has been infiltrated, and the culprit must be some high-ranking official among them. Snow brought the murderer, Qigu, back to the CAFA and immediately encountered questioning from Zigfai. You little girl, do you know what you're doing? You are secretly hiding a murderer. If this were to be exposed, you wouldn't lose your 9 lives. Siegfried blushed and looked like a hairy crab, but that's normal. If it were anyone, it would be like this. Finally, after repeatedly requesting and ensuring that Qigu is not like that person, it snows again and again. Although Chigafei looked unhappy, he still agreed to the request to stay in Qigu. Afterwards, Shueijixia Shui told Chigafei everything about Qigu Hachiman. Zhaoshuyuan.com, that is to say, Snow, you and the murderer are not the same. Should it be Qigu Hachiman, who is also the subject of that mysterious organization's human experiment? That's right, Shueisha nodded and looked at Qigu, who was eating bread. Shueisha and Chigafei came to Qigu and asked what memories he still remembered. I remember there was a gun and that bat night. Shueisha looked at Qigu, who was covering his head in memories, and suddenly felt that the truth was about to be revealed. Qigu waved his hand helplessly, and then I couldn't remember anything. Ah! X2 Kijafai and Shueisha both exclaimed in surprise, and Shueisha quickly approached and shook the Qigu 8 banners. Hey, you think about it again. Maybe you can remember, Qigu was dizzy from being shaken under the snow. The manager of the Qigu Fei store on the side couldn't bear to watch anymore. Just as he was about to stop it, Qigu Hachiman suddenly covered his head and let out a painful roar. Under the snow, my eyes were filled with excitement as I looked at Qigu. Do you remember anything? Qigu pushed Snow aside and nodded while holding his painful head. I remember someone who couldn't see their face clearly was probably me. I walked in through the door, and then there was a man wearing red cobra armor. Then I felt a burst of pain and fainted. What? Cobra armored snow. Snowfall. Listening to the detailed memories depicted by Qigu, I couldn't help but feel a little puzzled. Isn't it just Bat Armored Man? I guess so. After all, with such a large mysterious organization, it's impossible to just have an armored knight, right? Siegfried expressed his conjecture. Newcomers seeking attention and recommendations for new books, thank you. Chapter 6. Blood Potential. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The three of them were discussing, but were soon interrupted by Bai, who came down, and Godfather came. White blinked his wine-red big eyes as he looked at the three people discussing. Cough, what kind of white person should you call me? The store manager in the store. Okay, Bai casually replied. Afterwards, the three of them followed the stairs in the basement to prepare for entering the coffee shop. Then, under the shocked and puzzled gaze of the three, they looked at the expectant white-haired beauty Alice Phil at the refrigerator door. Alice Phil was also not ambiguous, fully demonstrating the thick-skinned nature of a journalist, and forcefully squeezed in with half effort. Of course, it's not easy to stop two big men. Isn't this, wow, the base of the Kamen Rider? So cool. Alice Phil blinked her starry eyes and looked and touched. So, how did you know about this place? Siegfried looked at the young girl with some confusion. Alice Phil didn't hide either. She took out a coffee shop advertisement from the pocket of her short skirt, which was accidentally left behind by Snowy Snow. Ah, this. Under the snow, Shue scratched his head with embarrassment on his face. But even with the thickest rabbit skin, facing the seemingly troubled girl-like gaze of Siegfried, it's not easy to fool him anymore. Alright, don't look at me like that, okay? I beg you, under the snow and a meal of begging for mercy. Chigafei sighed helplessly, with a feeling of being speechless and asking the sky. I reluctantly agreed, and another person knew about the creation of the cavalry base. The key is that Alice Phil has their hands on it. The next morning, Shue transformed into a Chuangqi driving a motorcycle and arrived at the location where the batter had reported according to the navigation. But it was not the attackers who greeted him, but the escort team. Knowing that they had planted the snow, they didn't hesitate and turned the front of the car to run. Countless pedestrians on the street gave way as a knight wearing armor was being chased by a group of guards. However, after passing a corner, the escort team found that the target they were pursuing had disappeared. Guarding soldiers got off their vehicles to survey the surrounding area, and a soldier arrived. In front of a table at an outdoor beverage shop, looking at Snowy Snow drinking coffee, did you see a knight wearing blue and red armor? Snowy Snow looked around and then pointed to himself, realizing that the guard soldiers were talking to him. No, I've been drinking coffee here all this time, and I haven't even seen what you're talking about. armor or anything like that. After a friendly communication between the guard soldiers and the actively cooperating Shui Xia Shui, he left. After it was confirmed that all the guards had left, Snow finally found an empty alley. He took out his motorcycle and returned to the coffee shop. Shui Xia Shui was discussing the matter behind it with the manager of the Zigfi store. Of course, a certain penguin had already gone to move coffee beans. There are clearly many issues with this attack, such as why the reactions of the attackers appeared on the soldiers of the escort team. It seems that there is a complicated relationship between the Eastern Metropolitan Government and the assassins, Zigfi analyzed. The door of the coffee shop was pushed open, and Qigu, whose face was pitch black from the scorching sun today, was wearing a straw hat. Holding a large bag of coffee the size of a person with both hands, he slowly walked over. "Hello, store manager, I have brought you the coffee beans you requested." Qigu Hachiman wiped the sweat off his forehead. This is 2 big bags of coffee that he specifically listened to from the coffee bean farm, freshly dug, washed, and packed. Of course, the reason why it's better to dig and wash now than to install now is because doing so can reduce the cost by half. "Ah, really, thank you so much, Qigu." Chigafei's eyes lit up and he immediately put aside the discussion on how to infiltrate the topic of the Dongdu government. Arriving in front of the 2 large bags of coffee, the Snow beside him suddenly shuddered as if thinking of something. "Hey, why do you want to buy coffee beans?" The angry white-haired girl walked out of the kitchen. No, it should be said that they specialize in making coffee, but now it has been changed to the kitchen. Bai arrived in front of Zigfi, pointing his finger at him with an uncontrollable anger on his small face. "What's so useless? You need to listen to me explain. As the saying goes, coffee that is not hand-ground is not good coffee. I am also trying to buy affordable coffee for customers." Bai listened to the store manager's sophistry of changing one thing after another and rolled his eyes. "Now that the money in the store is not enough, you still use it to buy coffee beans?" "No, absolutely not." Bai Xiaoshou made a cute cross shape and quickly carried them back and retreated. "No, Bai, you know I don't have any dreams either." "I'm just halfway through the conversation," Zigfi noticed. Bai's small eyes filled with resentment and murderous intent seemed to be saying that if you dare to say one more word and see if I can do it at night, you will be done. Ahem, what's the comparison to Qigu? I think Bai is right. I can't sacrifice everyone's quality of life for my own selfish desires. Alright, hurry up and move back. Zigfi waved his hand and changed his face like the Snow beside him, looking at Bai like a savior. Of course, the hardest part is our Qigu, who walked more than 10 kilometers on both feet. After working for half a day, he walked back carrying 2 large bags of coffee beans. Qigu sat on the ground with eyes full of despair. What a life without love. Speaking of which, what exactly is the assassin? Qigu, who had free time at night, sat at the table in the basement. Asking their most curious question, Shui Xia Shui and Bai exchanged a glance at each other and understood each other's thoughts. Although Shui Xia believed that Qigu was not the kind of murderer, Bai did not fully believe Bikigu's words. I kept an eye on it and didn't tell him any information except for this base. After understanding the situation, Shui Xia Shui began to compare the knowledge popularization of Qigu's fierce attackers. The so-called assassin is the result of a genetic sequence change caused by ordinary people inhaling a large amount of nebular gas. Is that so? But how did you bring it back, even though the gene sequence had already changed? Bikigu's face was full of curiosity. Snowfall, with a proud little face, took out a blank full bottle, of course because I had specially made a full bottle. It not only has the ability to absorb the nebular gas inside the attacker's body, but also releases a white purification gas that corrects the gene sequence. In that case, is it possible for us to turn the assassin back into a human without fighting? Qigu asked his curious question. Snowfall let out a sigh. If only this were true, the attacker had already fallen into a violent state due to inhaling a large amount of nebular gas. Running around everywhere may even give you a punch, so the best solution is to defeat it first and then purify it. I see, Qigu Hachiman nodded. Xue took out a full bottle that had already absorbed nebular gas, and looked at Bai with a charming face. Please, I took the bottle with a helpless expression on my face and sighed. When can you really give me the money for purifying the full bottle? Then he jumped off the chair and went to purify the full bottle on his own. Xue immediately turned around and saw Bikigu's suspicious gaze. It was truly you who could use child labor so naturally. What, you're a smart person. How can you use it? Anyway, I can't talk to you, you idiot. Hey, who are you saying is a fool? The two of them choked up again like enemies, and just then the phone on the table rang. Xue and Bikigu Hachiman turned their heads and looked over. Xue picked up her phone and connected to the video call. In the picture, a tightly wrapped girl made a frightened voice. Please let me go. Please, there is still some crying in your voice. But for those researchers wearing white coats and gas masks, this is not of much use. They forcibly stuffed the girl into an experimental chamber filled with strange chemicals. Hello, who are you? Stop it now. I couldn't bear the situation of snowfall on the spot. Zhaozuiyuan.com. He let out an angry roar, and beside him, Bikigu Hachiman clenched his fist with an unsightly expression. The screen shifted, and the Red Knight wearing the star-red snake armor made his rough voice. Oh, good evening Kamen Rider. Xue frowned and asked in a voice, why do you know my identity? Hello, it's very impolite of you. My name is Xue Qian. As for why do I know your identity? It's better to know about this later. What exactly do you want to do? Snowy Snow listened to the girl's increasingly sharp screams. Angered, he roared at the guy who claimed to be blood hidden. With a slap, Xue Qian clapped his hands and the sheep lay on the sofa, crossing their legs. Alright, let's get to the point. I want to play a game with you. As for the bet on this game. What do you think of the girl's life? Blood is like talking about trivial matters. Saying the cruelest words, the despicable guy X2, even Bikigu Hachiman, who had been silent beside him, couldn't resist. Alright, I'll send you the address tomorrow. You must come early, otherwise this girl's life will come to an end, ciao. Without waiting for Xue and Bai Qigu to react, Xue Qian hung up the phone. Doodle doodle, listening to the sound of the hanging up phone, both of them fell silent and the basement instantly fell into silence. Kiana looked angrily at the guy who claimed to be blood hidden. That guy is not even a beast. Don't let me meet him, otherwise I will definitely kill him. Kiana waved her small fist and wished she could rush into the screen now and kill the blood-borne beast. Newcomers seeking attention and recommendations for new books, thank you. Chapter 7. Hesitation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Zigfei unconsciously twitched the corners of his eyes and rubbed them in confusion. Why would I twitch the corners of my eyes? It must be that I haven't slept well lately. Ling Xiaolu Qinglong looked at the screen and said, so, what exactly is their plan? Snowy Snow was included in the plan from the beginning. Ling Xiaolu felt that if it weren't for her divine perspective, she might only have felt the conflict and couldn't directly find the problem. After all, the government, as an extremely powerful force, will not leave any clues that threaten you. So, after putting in so much effort to cultivate a Kamen Rider, what is the ultimate goal of the people hidden behind the scenes? Ling Xiaolu was not clear about it. He could feel the complexity behind this matter, the people behind it. I will never cultivate a fake knight who can shake the status of the country just because of the small matter of power. After all, that is a supernatural force, and ambitious people will firmly hold it in their hands, fearing that one might accidentally slip away. Even if cultivated, he would still cultivate the chosen warrior, and Ling Xiaolu Qinglong was lost in thought. On the other side, the genius detective L. Legendary sat on the sofa, pondering another question. According to the memories of Qigu Hachiman, it can be inferred. Although I don't know if the person blocked by the dark shadow is actually better than Qigu, without more evidence, I can only treat him as such. After entering, he was attacked and fainted, and then inexplicably put on the hat of killing a genius scientist. Although multiple authentication methods can be used to determine who the killer is, no one is actually in charge. L also listed several most likely names based on the Batman's words and subsequent actions. Among them, there is the section by Wei Gongqie C. Note. Only readers can see the section where Wei Gongqie C. let Shui Xia Shui in, which was added by the author. The next day, after greeting the store manager, Qigu and Shui Xia arrived at the location designated by Blood Qian, but when they arrived at the scene, what I saw was indeed a fierce attacker who had already fallen into a frenzy and wreaked havoc everywhere. Blood Qian walked out from the side and spread his hand. "I'm really sorry, this girl's body is really fragile. Hey, you guy." Qigu Hachiman's head hurt and he let out an angry roar as he wanted to move forward, but was stopped by Shueji Xiaxue. "Let me take care of the rest, I will turn it back. It's snowy to bring the driver." And the assailant also responded by firing an energy shell on the side of Shuexia Xueni, causing Qigu and Shuexia to quickly jump and dodge. Rabbit, tank is the best match. In the snow rolled around on the ground and stood up. The belt was already full of bottles. "Shake the lever, are you ready?" Transforming, accompanied by the sound of words falling, the Chuangqi armor was assembled on Shuexia Xueni's body. The rebellion of the steel lunar surface, rabbits and tanks. White smoke spewed out from the armor, and under the snow, the transformation was completed. Under the snow, the body slowly bends down, and the spring on the red rabbit's leg contracts rapidly, exerting a slight force. Snowfall came to the attacker in an instant, flying with one knee and flipping it to the ground. Immediately after, the snowfall did not give the batter enough reaction time, and a bright and blank pipeline flashed through his belt, extending from it. The shape of the weapon was formed, followed by the appearance of the Turbo Crusher, and Snowfall took over the Turbo Crusher. Arriving in front of the slightly shaky batter who had just stood up, the drill bit wrapped in a huge wind fiercely struck his chest. The batter retreated in succession under the slashing of Xuanai under the snow, while Blood Qian, who was standing by watching the play, yawned like a bystander. "Oh, I forgot to remind you that the amount of nebula gas injected by that girl is twice that of an ordinary person." "What?" The snowfall caused the hand that was about to turn the lever to pause slightly, twice as much. "This is the lethal dose. If the status of the assassin is released, this girl will definitely die." But it was precisely this hesitation that the batter seized the opportunity and fired an energy bomb straight into the chest under the snow, blasting it several meters away. After several consecutive somersaults, Shui Jixia looked angrily at Shui Qian standing beside him. "You guy. Ma, don't be so angry, but it can anger your body." But soon after, a majestic voice sounded. "The task that Blood Hidden had asked you to do has not been completed yet, it's really too slow." With the appearance of white smoke, Batman wearing knight armor appeared in the field, and Blood Hidden helplessly spread his hand. "There's no way, that's just my personality." "Humph." Facing the completely insincere statement from Blood Qian, Batman snorted coldly and ignored it. "Take out a short knife similar to a gatekeeper and slowly move towards Swazixia, who is entangled with the attacker." Under the snow, still hesitating whether to knock down the batter in front of me, I was unaware of the impending crisis. The Batman pushed the batter away, and the smoke knife mercilessly slashed at snow. "Ah!" Under the snow, Shui let out a painful cry and flew backwards, with a hedgehog full of bottles also falling out. The Batman bent over and picked up the full bottle, just in time to meet Snowy Snow, who was standing up. Under the snow, my chest keeps heaving and I don't know if it's painful or angry. "Hey, who the hell is this guy?" And Bikigu Hachiman, who had already been hiding to the side, did not cover his painful head again and let out a muffled groan in pain. "My name is Yiba. As for other matters, it's not easy for you to know yet." Yiba is preparing to come forward and repair the knife. The batter, who was originally pushed away, suddenly emitted a large amount of lightning from his body, accompanied by a painful roar. A large number of energy bombs indiscriminately attacked all directions, and the night fighter responded promptly by spreading his wings to avoid the attack. But Shueisha, who had not much stamina left, was not so lucky. Several energy bullets hit him straight. The Red Rabbit and Blue Tank were fully bottled and fell to the ground after being directly released from the transformation. The night fighter was about to come forward to retrieve it, but was stopped by Blood Qian standing beside him watching a play. The assassin was almost reaching his limit. "We don't have to play anymore. Obviously Blood Hidden doesn't want Night Overlord to come up and get those 2 full bottles." The night bully first fell silent for a moment, then took out a smoke gun and sprayed out a large amount of smoke, disappearing in place. The assailant let out a vicious roar and rushed towards the Blood Divine standing in place, but was easily dodged by him. Blood Qian distanced himself from him for a while, and the batter was about to attack, but his body gave a fierce thud with a black whip. It spread out from the wrist of Blood Qian, piercing straight through his abdomen. Blood Qian withdrew his whip and helplessly spread his hand. "I don't like to bite my owner's dog, Chow." Taking out the smoke gun and disappearing in place, the assailant's body emitted a large amount of nebula smoke, almost collapsing. But as he fell into a frenzy, he only wanted to destroy and walked step by step towards the Snow that stood up. Damn it, Snow had already fallen into a dilemma at this moment, and he didn't want to kill the girl himself. However, the batter raised his arms high before reaching under the snow, and closed his eyes under the snow. The imagined pain did not come. Shueji Xia Shue opened his eyes in surprise, and Bikigu Hachiman was holding onto the monster to prevent it from attacking. "You idiot! Why not defeat him?" Shue Xia Shue listened to the angry roar of Bikigu Hachiman, and at this moment, the suppressed anger in Shue's heart erupted violently. "You guy, can't you understand human language? As long as you defeat him, he will die. Can you bear to watch a life disappear before your eyes?" Bikigu gritted his teeth and exerted all his strength, throwing the batter away and looking under the snow. "I only felt your incompetence. You are aware of the damage caused by nebular gas within his body, and you can hear his painful roar. If you really do it for him, you should let him go." Bikigu Hachiman patted his shoulders under the snow with both hands, his tone full of seriousness. Under the snow, the body trembled and the head was struck by lightning like a bolt from the blue, followed by a smile. "Pushing away Bikigu Hachiman with my hands, I'm not even a fool. Since I need you to teach me such simple principles." Bikigu couldn't help but smile from the bottom of his heart as he looked at Shueisha, who had already made up his mind. "Come on." Shueisha Shue looked at the batter rushing towards him and took out 2 new full bottles to insert into his belt. "Gorilla, Diamond, the best match." In snowy snow, the lever is shaken, and the experimental framework travels from side to side to intercept the attacker. "Are you ready?" Transformation, Snow under Snow is exceptionally firm, an invincible destroyer, Diamond and Gorilla, yeah. Accompanied by the appearance of a large amount of smoke, find Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Snowy Snow was dressed up and the attacker fired a purple energy bullet. Under the snow, Snow lifted its diamond arm and easily resisted it, slowly walking towards the attacker. The batter saw that the ranged attack was ineffective, so he rushed straight to Shueisha Shueni. However, his frantic attack was blocked one by the diamond barriers under the snow. Under the snow, the right hand was reinforced with a fist as big as a gorilla's fist, and with one punch, it flew several meters. At this moment, there was no hesitation as the giant arm turned the lever and the gorilla diamond prepared, go. A large number of diamonds surrounded the snow, and under the snow, Snow swung a huge fist and fiercely smashed it, ending the turbo. The gemstone was like a sharp sword, completely defeating the batter, and the snowfall collected the nebula gas of the batter in a bottle. Unleashing his transformation, there was no trace of happiness. Snow came to the girl lying on the ground and picked her up. Qigu Hachiman watched from a distance. The girl blinked her hollow eyes and wrapped her arms around her neck under the snow. "I'm so cold, why am I so cold? It's so cold." At this moment, I couldn't hold back and shed tears. I hugged the girl tightly and said, "I'm sorry, it's all because I'm useless. If I could be smarter. If I could be stronger, how could such a thing have happened?" Under the snow, Snow choked up with apologies. The girl with empty eyes gave her final smile. "Thank you." As the words fell, the girl transformed into light particles and completely dissipated. Under the snow, I felt as if there was something in my hand. I spread out my palm and lay quietly in a purified full bottle. The pattern above is exactly dragon. Newcomers seeking attention and recommendations for new books, thank you. Chapter 8. Cruelty. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing the scene in the video, I couldn't help but clench my fist. It's really excessive. That's right, the pink group nodded repeatedly. That Blood-Hidden and Night Tyrant are simply demons, they even experimented with ordinary people. This despicable practice quickly attracted a large number of kind-hearted viewers to criticize its behavior. After the next scene aired, the audience fell into collective silence again. In the office of the Prime Minister in Nandu, accompanied by a ringing of his phone, Jing sat on the CEO's chair and answered the call. "Oh, really? Have the two most important full bottles in Dongdu appeared yet?" The action was really unexpected. After hanging up the phone, the blonde little lowly Jing showed a meaningful smile, indicating that the gears had already started rotating. On the other side, in the bustling streets of the southern capital, there is a shining sign with the big characters of human trafficking companies printed on it, which is extra eye-catching. But passers-by seem to have gotten used to it and didn't feel any surprise. Lou Crocodile is grading documents in the office, with two loyal guards standing on one left and one right, guarding the Deputy Prime Minister. Accompanied by a burst of hurried footsteps, a person's face turned pale, and their eyes grew larger and smaller, highlighting the fact that their face was covered in pockmarks. At first glance, the man who looked like a drug addict pushed open the glass door and strode in, while behind him was the anxious front desk lady. The man stared with angry eyes, which couldn't help but brighten up when he saw Lou Crocodile with soft black hair and a delicate face. But soon he concealed it and came to the table. With a fierce clap of his hands, a loud noise spread throughout the entire office. Lou Crocodile casually threw the pen in his hand and looked up at the man. "Is there anything you need to do with me?" His tone was also quite cold. "Yes, why is the agreed upon amount of money only 1/3 of the original amount? Where did the remaining money go?" The man roared angrily. Lou Crocodile waved his hand, and the guard next to him walked to the nearby bookshelf and handed him a document. Lou Crocodile looked curiously, then bored and rolled his eyes, throwing the file in his hand on the table. And the image on the file, the girl who was officially injected with twice the nebula gas, lightly tapped his photo with her fingertips. The unknown girl is 23 years old and has lost her purity. Her body has been injured and cracked in multiple places, and her uterus has slightly deformed before giving birth to a child. That area has also cracked open. Have sex with over a dozen men every night. Accidental infection with super strong influenza requires significant financial treatment. With your condition, the value of that money is already good, and Lou Crocodile is bored and holding on his face. When the man heard Lou Crocodile's description, his eyes immediately emitted a green light. "The young girl you told me was worth that price. As a result, you have now turned your back. Give me the money quickly, you stinky bitch." The man roared and reached out to grab at Lu Crocodile's tender chest. I don't know if it was intentional or unintentional, but that's not important anymore. With the sound of 2 gunshots, the man was shot on the forehead and chest respectively, and blood splattered and collapsed straight on the table. There was no more breathing, and a blood-red barrier appeared in front of Lu Crocodile, blocking it. The red color was mixed with some white blood stains. "Really, I've said not to kill here, not to kill here, it's okay now, my desk is dirty." Lu Crocodile turned around and looked at the 2 guards, looking helpless. The guard put away the pistol and quickly bowed to apologize. "I am truly sorry X2. It doesn't matter anymore." Lu Crocodile spread out his hands and stood up, bypassing the man's body and walking towards the door. "I dismantled all the things in my office and replaced them with brand new ones. The floor was also dismantled and replaced with new ones." The 2 guards quickly claimed that Lu Crocodile walked to the door and pushed open the glass door, as if thinking of something. He turned around to look at the guards who were cleaning up the bodies. "I don't want the same litter of mice to wander in front of me, do you understand what I mean?" Lu Crocodile asked coldly. A soldier quickly saluted, saying that we will carry out a comprehensive rodent extermination this afternoon to ensure that no mice come in the next day. Lu Crocodile smiled and got it right. "We no longer use the name Human Trafficker Company, let's change it to Crocodile Group." After finishing speaking, we opened the door and left. The audience who saw this scene couldn't help but look at themselves in the mirror and then at the despicable man in the video. Now they finally know why the girl said she was cold, not only because her body was cold, but also because her heart was cold. Listening to Lu Crocodile's description of the girl, some girls with poor psychological resilience burst into tears on the spot. Alice Phil blushed with eyes, covered her mouth, and couldn't help but sob softly as she watched the girl's experience in the video. Wei Gongqie tightly clenched his fist and said, "That despicable scumbag is nothing." Wei Gongqie swore that if the man stood in front of him, he would not hesitate to pull the trigger at him with a gun. At this moment, everyone realized that it was a chaotic era divided into 3 countries by the sky wall. Peace and all other things are false, and those who truly enjoy power and wealth are always the wealthy in the top-tier society. Kamen Rider creation is definitely not a simple hero adventure story. Xue Xia watched the video in silence, while Qigu Hachiman, who was also sent in, didn't know what to say and fell into silence. Only one pink-haired bun was trembling with shivers after returning to the base. Xue Xia handed the blue dragon vase to Qigu Hachiman. Qigu looked at the struggling Snow in front of him in confusion and said, "Hey, are you okay? Did you just leave this thing to me like this?" Snowfall shook its head and showed a confident smile again. "Really, how could my confidence be so easily destroyed? As for the dragon bottle, let's temporarily entrust it to you for safekeeping," and then the 2 of them entered the coffee shop. Qigu handed his carefully brewed coffee to the 3 people sitting at the table. By Qigu, under the snow. "I also did it myself," and Qigu Hachiman looked at everyone with a cautious expression on his face. "Everyone, I have remembered some memories about me again. What do you want to say?" "Snowy Snowfall is an urgent inquiry. I remember, I seem to have worked in prison before, but suddenly I was ambushed by a foreman. Afterwards, it became a human experimental subject, which means that as long as we find the leader, we can know the answer. Under the snow, we frown. But it seems that we don't have any intelligence in that area, so Bai reluctantly spread out his hand. Hey, you seem to have forgotten that we were not 3 people from beginning to end. The words spoken by Siegfried suddenly woke us up. Under the snow of contemplation, right? Isn't there another journalist with exceptional intelligence skills? Xue Xia quickly picked up her phone and called Alice Phil, explaining the general situation. Alice Phil confidently accepted the commission and then hung up the phone, probably to investigate the intelligence. Under the snow, the 3 of them also breathed a sigh of relief and finally had a clue. Then they took a sip of coffee from the table and collectively fell to the ground. Bitter to the bone. Until the afternoon, Alice Phil, sweating profusely, pushed open the glass door of the coffee shop and walked in. "Hello, I have found the information I need. How is it?" "Very impressive, isn't it?" Alice Phil said with a smug expression on her face. "Oh. That's really amazing, it's truly you, Miss Journalist." Siegfried looked at Alice Field with a face full of praise. "Holding a freshly brewed cup of coffee in your hand, as a reward for Miss Alice Field's help, this cup of coffee will be given to you." "Thank you." Alice Phil took the coffee and had already run all the way. He was already thirsty and didn't hesitate to take a sip. The three little ones who pushed open the refrigerator door from the underground base tried to stop them, but it was too late. Alice Phil died in the evening. Alice Phil rubbed her swollen forehead at the underground base, with a bitter expression on her face. Of course, the manager of the Siegfried store left her plate on top because she still had a plate to wipe, so she must have felt guilty. That is to say, is the leader of the prison a prison guard named Guadao? That is to say, he attacked Qigu Hachiman, who was working at the time. As long as we find him, the truth should come to light. Unfortunately, it was only after a thorough investigation that Xue Jixia Xue discovered it. Gua's name, information, and background are all fake. Looking for Shuyuan on www.zhaoshuyuan.com means that all of this is a trap with premeditation and budget. Qigu Hachiman scratched his head, feeling that he didn't have such great value either. Is it worth the enemy's hard work on him? I also feel the same way. Even under the snow, there was a face full of helplessness, just as the situation was getting into an awkward situation. After washing the dishes, Siegfried walked down with a proud expression and leaned in. "Humph, it seems that at the critical moment, we can only rely on our white hands." What X3, under the snowfall, Qigu Hachiman and Alice Phil both raised questions. Can a little girl really do something that they can't understand? Chigafei walked up to Bai with a smug face and said, "Don't underestimate Bai. Don't underestimate him like he is now. He is a big anchor with hundreds of thousands of fans secretly." After seeing your innocence, the three of them were shocked, puzzled, and with a hint of enlightenment on their faces, dressed in Gothic lowly attire. Wearing pure white stockings and small leather shoes, his hair was specially taken care of by the manager of the Siegfried store, and his small face was also painted with light makeup. Arriving in front of the live streaming phone, Bai blinked her ruby-like eyes and looked pitifully at the screen. "Please everyone," my tone was light and ethereal, but it melted everyone present. Under the snow collapsed to the ground on the spot, so cute. Why is there such a lovely little loli in the world? Alice Phil also collapsed to the ground. If, in the future, I could have a daughter like Bai, I would have died without regrets. Of course, there are exceptions, such as a store manager who has already been vaccinated, and a penguin standing on the side at a loss. Neither of them should be considered human, Newcomers seeking attention and recommendations for new books, thank you. Chapter 9. Traps. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The people outside the video were also instantly enchanted by their hearts. Especially a certain paramecium. Kiana let out a silly laugh in the government-arranged room, hee, my white. Rolling back and forth on the bed for a few laps. On the other side, I couldn't help but look at the adorable white in the picture. Little sister didn't expect you to look so beautiful when you put on makeup. Of course, Bai is the most adorable person in the world who refuses to accept refutation. Bai is full of pride and stands up, his chest without much capital. It has to be said that her beautiful appearance, combined with her soft and cute voice, truly captured the fans in front of the screen. Quickly, under the large-scale search of hundreds of thousands of people, a large amount of information about Director Guo was quickly screened out. Although some information about Director Gua and his home location were clearly found, the attacker also appeared at this time. Between searching for her own memories and rescuing someone, Snow did not hesitate for too long. She turned around, picked up her backpack, and walked towards the basement exit. Qigu Hachiman looked at the figure of the young girl, silently lost in thought, and then asked a very important question. If you lose the opportunity to know your past memories when you go out, what kind of choice should you make? Shui turned to look at Qigu, who asked this question. The answer was already confirmed, wasn't it? And then he left without looking back. In an instant, a large group of viewers turned into a fan group of Shui Nai. Wei Gongshilang looked at Snow with longing in his eyes and said, "That's right, this is the righteous companion my father told him. He must also become such a person in the future, come on." After the snow fell and went out, Qigu Hachiman didn't have time to contact Director Gua on his phone. After learning that he was being threatened with his family for doing those things. When facing Director Gua's request, Qigu hesitated for a moment, and then the figure under the snow echoed in his mind. In the end, Qigu agreed to save Gua's family and contacted Alice Phil for help. After dressing up in disguise, Qigu Hachiman wanted to board the ship to Qigu in the dark, but when he arrived at the harbor, he only realized that this was a complete trap, and the guards of the eastern capital were ready to go. They had been waiting here for a long time. When Qigu saw this situation, he didn't hesitate and quickly ran away, with soldiers chasing after him closely. Finally, at a corner, while Qigu Hachiman was running away, he was pulled over by one hand. A large number of motorcycle and cavalry rushed by without noticing the Biki Valley that had been pulled into the alley. Hey, I didn't expect it. Are you really planning to go to Qigu? Qigu was panting heavily, and the familiar voice, along with some praise, reached his ears. Looking back, the person who saved himself was Snow and Alice Phil standing next to him. Isn't that what you said? Should we prioritize saving lives? Qigu scratched his head and expressed his insights. So you're learning quite quickly. Shui showed a gentle smile, stunned before Qigu Hachiman. Brother, you must protect me well. The voice of a little girl echoes in my mind, as Qigu covers her slightly painful head. Feeling a bit at a loss, the snow shook and stunned Biki Valley. Hey, what are you thinking? You've been stunned here for a long time. It's nothing, let's hurry up and board the ship. Qigu shook his head and changed the topic. After finally putting in a lot of effort, after boarding the ship, Qigu fell into contemplation as he looked at the somewhat empty hull. I just realized that with such a big ship and no one to pilot it, we might have been fooled. Yes, and there are so many soldiers. Alice Phil also highly praised the statement of Yo-Yo Valley. Do you have it? Snowy Snowfall is a bit confusing, after all, he has never boarded a boat since he lost his memory. After all, poverty is one thing, but before the three of them could discuss for long, an unexpected guest soon proved their conjecture. The batter broke a big hole in the cargo box and jumped out. Snow took out the driver and took out 2 full bottles to transform. Rabbit, Tank, best match, are you ready? Transform. The rebellion of the Steel Moon, rabbits and tanks, yeah. Snowy Snow quickly engaged in battle with the aircraft slayer, and the turbo crusher struck him heavily. A large amount of sparks splashed, causing the batter to take several steps back, roaring and emitting an angry roar. They spread their wings and flew into the sky. White like yellow worms, flying creatures shoot out from within and attack their surroundings indiscriminately. Its power is like a bullet, and Snow Under Snow uses the rabbit's ability. With a few jumps, it arrives in front of Qigu and Alice Field. Wave the turbo crusher to eliminate all the attacking white bullet worms. Then give this a try. Shui took out yesterday, defeated the assassin, and filled the bottle with a bald eagle purified from white. He enthusiastically began his best combination experiment. Take out a black slate with a full bottle groove similar to a driver on it. There are a total of 10 on it. Under the snow, Snow excitedly inserted the gorilla and diamond into the best match X2, and the silly hair on his head was still swaying wildly. Qigu Hachiman looked at the girl with a completely changed personality with a strange expression on her face, feeling somewhat bewildered. The manager of the Siegfried store beside him explained to Qigu Hachiman that there are almost completely compatible full bottles among them, which is the so-called best combination. As he spoke, he picked up the Chuangqi driver on the table and took out a rabbit and a tank from a group of full bottles to insert into it. The best combination of rabbit and tank. That is to say, just randomly find 2 bottles to insert, as long as it is the best combination. Is that enough? Qigu Hachiman said so. But Snow on the side was not happy anymore. Daimao shook wildly, and his little hand angrily poked Bikigu's chest. What does it mean to just take 2 bottles at will? Before the best combination in the main city, it is necessary to consider the adaptability of each bottle. And the combination of 2 abilities, how could it be so casual as you said? Qigu Hachiman was also an unconvinced master, and immediately took the Chuangqi drive from Siegfried's hand. It was precisely at that moment that the figures of 2 bottles suddenly flashed through his mind, and Qigu Hachiman shook his head. I took out the Bald Eagle and Gaklin from the table and inserted them into the creativity drive. Bald Eagle and Gaklin are the best match. Ah! What? Under the snow, Shui snatched the drive with an incredulous expression on his face, lost in thought as he watched the best one above. Oh. That's really amazing. It was successful on the first attempt. How did you do it, Qigu? Chigafei exclaimed repeatedly. Of course that's just intuition. Qigu Hachiman and Zijafai clapped each other's hands and fed you enough. He was just lucky. Snowfall made a voice of defiance as the 3 of them were playing happily when a flying knife pierced through their cheeks. Directly embedded into the wall, the 3 of them swallowed a mouthful of saliva at the same time and turned their heads to look at man with a friendly face playing with flying knives. If you dare to speak again, I'll kill you all. The tone is also unusually kind. X3, memories come to an end. Unplug the rabbit and tank full bottle, insert a new full bottle, Bald Eagle, Gatling, the best combination. Turn the lever, are you ready? Create a ride upgrade. The new armor was assembled on snowy snow. The Overlord soaring in the sky, the Bald Eagle and Gatling, yeah. Composed of silver and yellow, and with a pair of large wings behind it, a creative riding form appears. Snow comes from last night. A Gatling machine gun made by staying up late and working overtime. Spread 2 orange wings and fly towards the sky. The batter sees the white bullets shooting out of his body again. The vast scope actually enveloped the entire ship. Under the snow, there was no panic, and the law of victory was still determined. Pulling the trigger, the orange-yellow bullet was fired from the Gatling machine gun. After zooming in, the audience realized that the yellow bullets were actually miniature versions of Bald Eagles. Quickly, the bullet beetle was reduced to a controllable range, and the assailant saw that their bullets were useless. He rushed towards the Snowfall, but was swiftly dodged by the latter, kicking him straight in the chest. Flying towards higher altitudes, the bullet beetle, influenced by its host, also flew towards the sky, waving its wings under the snow. Flying towards the sky without haste or delay, continuously rotating the Gaklin machine gun in hand, a huge circular orange-yellow energy bar. After wrapping around his swarm of insects and the attacker, making it impossible for him to escape, he turned the lever under the snow. Bald Eagle, Gatling, get ready, go. The turbo came to an end, bullets swept through the entire field, and the assailant, along with the swarm of insects, were eliminated. After absorbing the nebula gas from the plane bomber and restoring it to its original state, Snow was surprised to find that it was not the person they were looking for, Director Guo. Qigu Hachiman quickly stepped forward to check, but before taking a few steps, Qigu lay on the ground with blurred eyes. Under the snow on the other side, Alice and Phil had the same symptoms as him, lying on the ground almost unable to move. The cobra, shimmering with white light, lit up in the darkness, and Xue Qian walked over with smoke in a hurry. "Really, seeing that you haven't collapsed for so long, I thought I bought a fake, but did it still have an effect in the end?" Xue Qian crossed over the crowd and came straight to Guadao's side, picking him up and looking for Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Xue Jixia Xue wanted to raise his hand to stop him. But the hand that was raised halfway just now collapsed weakly. "Sorry, I can't let you come into contact with this person yet, Chao." After another greeting, Xue Qian disappeared from the scene using a smoke rifle. So, is everything within the plan? Elle thought of it this way, but what made him most concerned was the words of that blonde loli. The two most important full bottles in Dongdu. Can it be said that a full bottle also has two properties? Rare and ordinary. A certain pink-haired bun, with a face full of fear, hugged Xue Jixia. Ah. That red guy is really a pervert. Woo, my poor Xiaoxue must reach that villain. Xue Xia Xue reluctantly comforted the pink-haired bun and sighed. In the video, she had always been led by the nose. And I also lost my memory, from a cold and aloof personality to a lively and outgoing personality, although I was a bit envious. But it is obvious that besides developing technology, the person in the video has a really easy physique to fall for. Especially when it comes to saving lives, it is precisely because of this that we have fallen into the trap of blood hiding. However, to the surprise of Xue Xia Xue, the person named Xue Qian left without taking the full bottle from him. It is obvious that this is not a good thing. After all, everyone has their own purpose and considerations before taking an action. For example, the actions and ideas of Night Fighter are almost all centered around filling the bottle. But this blood potential obviously has no interest in filling the bottle, which means he must have his own set of action logic. Chapter 10. Slabs. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Here, under the snow covered his head, and the pain from his brain almost made him unable to think. Along with it came the fragmented memories, the mini Pandora's box being held by a person wearing red gloves. When he took away the slate of Pandora's box, there was still a slate inside. It was a double-dot layer structure. Snowy Snow opened its eyes wide and its face was full of disbelief, but before it could think for long, a feeling of dizziness came over. When he opened his eyes again, the familiar ceiling caught his eye, and Snowy Snow sat up to rub his still slightly painful head. "Who am I?" "Ah, you're awake." Qigu Hachiman sat on a chair, propped up his chin, and greeted the newly awakened Snow. The manager of the Siegfried store walked over with a nutritious breakfast, and surprisingly, he was unconscious for an extra day than Hachiman. It seems that Xue Nai's body still needs more exercise. Under the snow, even after taking breakfast, Xue disregarded any image of a young girl and wolfed it down. However, the result of wolfing down food is choking, and under the snow beats its chest, trying to swallow the food stuck in its throat. However, it was obvious that it didn't work. Seeing this situation, Bai brought over a canned coffee. Snowy Snow took the coffee, opened the pull tab, drank it all in one breath, and finally let out a long sigh. I patted my full belly and said, "So, how many days have I been unconscious?" Xue Jixia Xue only asked her biggest question after she had eaten enough. She groaned and fell into a coma for 3 days, one more day than me, and her face was filled with pride. What? After 3 days of snowfall, the face was filled with disbelief. What's going on? Bai looked under the surprised Snow with some confusion. Under the snow, Xue quickly lifted the blanket, looked at the watch on his wrist, and hurriedly walked out of the basement. Qigu followed out of the basement in confusion. What's wrong, Snow? Is there anything urgent? Snowfall, I put on my small leather shoes and looked flustered. The leave I requested is coming today. If I can't make it back now, I will be fired. Ah, what? If you are fired, the manager of the Zigfi store seems to have heard his little money fly away with this month's salary. I hurriedly took off the beige windbreaker from the clothes rack and put it on Snow Milk. Quick, fast, fast, fast. Don't waste a second, time is life. Under the urging of the manager of the Zigfi store, Shueisha finally punched the card at the last second. In fact, Snowfall came this time not to worry about being fired, but to confirm another matter. Under his careful observation of Pandora's box, he finally discovered the problem he wanted to know. Sure enough, that day's observation was not wrong, Pandora's box was indeed missing a stone slab. That is to say, is it because of that stone slab that humans have transformed into assassins? Although I had already thought about it under the snow. With human technology, it is absolutely impossible for humans to possess the terrifying power of the assassin, so the source of all of this comes from the Pandora's box. And that Pandora's slate is very likely to have been taken by a mysterious organization claiming to be Faust. That makes sense, they have been using the power of Pandora's slate to turn ordinary people into batters. In order to achieve their own goals, or to conduct some kind of experiment, Shui hurriedly ran to the current Prime Minister of Dongdu. He also serves as the director of the Ice Room Fantasy Deity Research Institute and the office of Wei Gongqie. He revealed his conjecture to Wei Gongqie and the question of why Pandora's slate was stolen. Wei Gongqie frowned hesitantly, but under the continuous questioning of Shuena under the snow. In the end, he sighed helplessly, even if it was a reward for the first scientist to discover, and after saying that, Wei Gongqie waved his hand. Weber, standing beside him, handed a photo album to Shuena and slowly recounted what had happened back then. 3 years ago, someone did indeed snatch a Pandora slate, and that person suddenly disappeared 3 years ago. He is, Weber said as he opened the photo album, and the person on it was Zigfi wearing a blue hoodie. The snowfall caused the brain to suddenly fall into a state of oscillation. Remembering the scene of Zigfi taking himself into a CAFA on a rainy night. At that time, Shui took over the Chuangqi drive and full bottle handed over by the manager of the Zigfi store, and under his cultivation, became a Kamen Rider. The snowfall was something that should have been noticed for a long time, whether it was the drive or the full bottle, it seemed as if it had been prepared early. But he also possesses a purifying power that he doesn't even know about, which can help him purify a full bottle. Why did Faust also have the same full makeup products, and why did the manager of Siegfried appear at the Pandora celebration 3 years ago? Under the snow, he returned home with a gloomy face. Ah, you're back. The manager of Siegfried looked at the gloomy snow on his face. What's wrong with you? Shui ignored Siegfried's words and opened the refrigerator door to the basement. Qigu felt a hint of unease and quickly followed, feeding Shui. What's wrong with you? What stimulation did you get? Shui still didn't respond. He picked up the nearby hammer and looked at the black best matching device hanging on the wall. In the surprised eyes of Bikigu Hachiman and Bai, they hit each other with a hammer, the truth behind all of this that I should have guessed long ago. Under the snow took down the black slate, which was Pandora's slate. Why? Why do you have this? Answer me quickly. Siegfried fell into silence. Snowfall continues to ask. Are you a member of Faust? Faced with the questioning from Shueni, Siegfried's expression couldn't help but change. Is that so? Is the double-dot layer structure of Pandora's magic box, which means that the outer layer of the stone slab is used to set the full bottle. L stuffed a piece of milk candy into his mouth and said so. On the other hand, the atmosphere in the special science hall provided by the state was unusually tense, and Cecilia couldn't help but grab onto Siegfried's hem. It was hard for him to imagine that his husband was actually a member of Faust, and Siegfried was sweating profusely and swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Dad, please tell me if you are actually a member of Faust. When faced with his daughter's inquiry, Siegfried also has difficulties that he cannot express. He didn't do anything, it was all done by himself in the video, how did he know? I can only look at the subsequent plot. If it develops, it should not be the kind of plot where criminals are caught and brought to justice. Please. Everyone also refocused their attention on the video, wanting to know how the plot would develop next. Faced with repeated inquiries from Snow, Qigu couldn't help but sigh. I told the truth back then, and yes, I was the astronaut of that time, and also the first to discover Pandora's box. When I came into contact with Pandora's box, for some reason a burst of red light flashed through me, although I didn't feel any noticeable changes in my body. But he could sense that he had become somewhat abnormal when he attended the celebration as a national pioneer. Seeing the Pandora's box located in the center, he suddenly felt a strange feeling in his heart for some reason. At that time, he completely lost consciousness, his eyes turned red, and he charged straight towards Pandora's box, which was also that day. The sky wall tragedy caused by Qigu himself occurred, and upon reflection, Qigu fell into regret. At the same time, a stronger desire also surged in the heart, causing immense pain. In his pain, he didn't know how to make up for the mistake he had committed, and his strange behavior also attracted the evil hidden within the country. Faust captured Siegfried, and after some brainwashing, Siegfried almost completely lost himself. He did many wrong things for Faust that made him proud and regretful, until he encountered them. Dubbed a miracle by Faust, he was imprisoned in a cell covered in dirt and dressed in criminal attire. Faust discovered early on that the magical power of white can purify a full bottle, capturing and storing it. Then let it forcibly purify and fill the bottle, which was also the day when Siegfried saw Bai again. The purification ability of Bai was unconsciously activated, pulling back Siegfried, who was in a brainwashed state. Siegfried, who had regained his self-awareness, finally found the best time after a period of incubation and restraint. Due to the fact that his body has also been modified, Siegfried found the Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com and effortlessly dealt with all the members guarding Faust. With a seemingly indifferent white face, he fled and also took away Faust's black slate. Some full bottles and the most confidential system known to him during his assassin period, namely the Chuangqi drive, went smoothly together. Bikigu Hachiman felt a headache and was lost in thought. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Snowfall, no matter how much it snows, raised a question. That's because I hope you can become a hero, and with my own strength, I am completely unable to protect myself. Worried about Faust's pursuit, and unable to bear their reckless actions, Siegfried was surprised and bewildered when he met the snow in the rainstorm. Snow, I hope you can become a hero. I believe that with your qualities, you are capable of withstanding the powerful power of a full bottle and the temptation it brings. To crush the darkness hidden within the country, it's not that I don't want to tell you, but that I'm afraid you can't bear it. Qigu's tone was full of worries and heartache. Really, how could I be as fragile as you said? After all, I am a genius. The snowfall wiped away the tears from the corners of my eyes. Stand up with a proud chest and a face full of small pride. That's right, that's right. Bai has personally admitted that Shui is the second most lovely girl besides herself, and Bai also showed a warm smile. Siegfried patted his shoulder under the snow, saying, Snow, welcome back. His tone was full of emotion and comfort. Thank you for being in a deserted corner and not becoming a king. In 20200, the recommended ticket for the Great God Ring is important. Star. Oh, asterisk.